There are many wonderful things about owning a British classic car: the charm, the history, the way strangers nod approvingly at you in car parks, as if you've done something noble for your country. But before you buy one, there are a few things people tend not to mention, not because they're trying to hide them, more because British classic owners have accepted their fate and no longer see anything unusual about it. So here are 3 things nobody tells you, but probably should. Number 1, you will smell permanently of petrol. This is not a metaphor, it's a lifestyle. Somewhere, deep inside the soul of a British classic, whether it's an old MGB, a Triumph Spitfire, or a slightly too confident Jaguar XJ6, there is a faint but persistent desire to perfume its owner. You step out of the car after a lovely drive, take a deep breath, and there it is, that unmistakable blend of petrol, old leather, and maybe the ghost of a previous owner's pipe smoke. You'll think you've imagined it. Your friends will assure you that you haven't, and eventually you'll stop trying to get rid of the smell and simply accept that it's part of your personal brand. Number 2, electrical issues are a bonding exercise. Some people say the British invented romance. I say they invented character, building wiring looms. If you own anything with the words Lucas anywhere near it, you're not just a driver, you're in a long-term relationship with the Prince of Darkness himself. One day the indicators work, the next day they're on a spiritual retreat. Your headlights may or may not join you. But here's the thing, every time you fix something, or jiggle a connector, or threaten the car with a multimeter, you feel genuinely proud. Modern cars don't give you that. They give you error codes and judgment. A classic gives you opportunities for personal growth. And number 3, the real thrill isn't the driving, it's the starting. Every British classic owner knows that sacred moment. You sit down, turn the key, and hold your breath. Will it fire up instantly, like an enthusiastic Austin Mini on a sunny day? Or will it cough, think about life, and then decide that today is not the day? That moment, that glorious, unpredictable, slightly anxious moment, is the true heartbeat of British motoring. When it does start, you feel victorious. When it doesn't, you shrug because you've packed tools. You always pack tools. You could be going to the shops for milk, and you'll have a toolkit in the boot, just in case your Triumph decides it fancies a roadside picnic. But here's the secret. These 3 things point to British classics aren't perfect, and we don't want them to be. The little quirks, the smells, the gremlins, they're all part of a relationship that feels alive. Modern cars do everything flawlessly, and somehow that's less interesting. A classic gives you stories, it gives you character, it gives you a mild but constant sense of adventure. So yes, nobody tells you these 3 things, but once you've lived with a British classic, you wouldn't trade them for anything, except maybe a lift home when the starter motor gives up. There's a funny thing that happens when you spend time with an old car. You start off thinking you're the one looking after it, keeping it running, coaxing it through its quirks, forgiving it for the odd rattle or drip. But eventually you realize something else is going on. The car is teaching you something too. And one of its favorite lessons is this: slow down. Classic cars don't rush. They can't. They were born in a time before instant everything, before touch screens, notifications, and the strange modern belief that faster is always better. When you drive an old machine, you feel that difference immediately. There's a certain unhurried rhythm to the way it warms up, wakes up, and decides whether it's in the mood to cooperate today. And if you try to push it, it will remind you, gently or not, that patience is part of the deal. What's surprising is how quickly that patience becomes a pleasure, because when you're in a classic, you're not just travelling through space, you're travelling through time, you're driving something built with hands, not algorithms. You start listening more closely to the engine, noticing small changes, paying attention to the behaviour of the gearbox or the weight of the steering. Without even realising it, you drop out of the mental rush of the day and into something far more grounded. It's a bit like a moving meditation, not the sit cross-legged on a cushion type, but the sort where your attention is anchored to the sound, the feel, the moment right in front of you. You can't drive a classic car while doom scrolling or worrying about 10 different emails. It demands your presence, and that presence becomes a kind of refuge. There's also a humility to it. Classic cars have no interest in your schedule. They don't care about the meeting you're late for or the message you haven't answered. They operate on their own timeline with their own temperament. And once you accept that, life gets a bit lighter. You stop fighting the clock. You stop trying to force everything. You breathe a little more. And in that space, you rediscover something modern life quietly stole. The simple joy of driving for its own sake. A slow cruise, a long corner taken with care. The sensation of being connected to a machine that asks you to participate, not just sit there. It reminds you that moving slowly isn't the opposite of progress. Sometimes it's the only way to feel where you're actually going. So yes, old cars break and fuss and throw the occasional tantrum, but along the way they also teach us how to let go, how to pay attention, and how to enjoy the journey instead of sprinting from one destination to the next. In their own stubborn, charming way, classic cars show us a truth we tend to forget. You don't have to live fast to live well. Sometimes the best moments are found in the slow lane. You know, whenever I'm around classic cars, I'm struck by this quiet realization. Every old engine you see has lived more life than most of us ever stop to notice. We look at these machines as objects, as hobbies, as projects to fix on a Sunday. But somewhere in the metal, in the noise, in the wear and tear, there are stories tucked away. Sometimes I think that's what draws us to them, not the horsepower or the rarity, but the history that hums beneath the surface. Think about it, every engine misfire was once a moment of worry for someone. Every smooth pull through second gear was once a burst of pride. That gentle tick on the overrun, someone else heard it long before you did. They wondered what it meant. They listened closely to the rhythm, just like you do now. Old engines collect people. They collect the hands that worked on them, the families that drove in them, the places they broke down, and the journeys they carried us through. A car that's 40 or 50 years old isn't just running on fuel, it's running on memory, all that maintenance and tinkering we do. Sometimes I think we're not restoring machines, we're restoring moments that would otherwise be forgotten. And the funny thing is, the parts that frustrate us the most are the ones with the richest stories. That stubborn bolt that refuses to move. Someone else fought with it in '84. That strange rattle that appears only on left turns. It probably annoyed 3 different owners before you. You're part of a lineage now, a caretaker in a long line of caretakers. The beauty of an old engine isn't in how perfect it runs. It's in the traces of life you can feel when it fires up. That first cough on a cold morning, the little shake as it settles into idle, the deep breath before it comes alive. It's like the car is remembering itself. You're not just starting an engine, you're waking up a piece of the past, and maybe that's the real magic. Modern cars are incredible, but they don't have that connection. They haven't had time to gather a soul. A classic car has lived through decades of roads, weather, mistakes, triumphs. If you listen closely, you can almost hear the stories, the long trips, the late night drives, the arguments, the laughter, the music on the radio that hasn't played in years. An old engine teaches you to pay attention, to feel instead of calculate, to notice the small things, the way the throttle responds, the smell of warm oil, the shift in tone when the revs rise. There's nothing digital to smooth it out, nothing artificial to hide the imperfections. It's honest, it tells you exactly how it feels, for better or worse. And in a world full of polished surfaces and perfect feedback, that honesty is refreshing. So next time you start up an old car, pause for just a moment. Listen to the churn, the catch, the first breath it takes. That sound has echoed across time. It connected someone's past to your present, and one day it'll become part of someone else's story too, because engines may be made of metal, but the lives they carry, those are made of us, and every one of those lives leaves a little trace behind, tucked somewhere deep inside the noise, waiting for you to hear it. There was a time when people used to go out for a drive for no reason at all. No errands, no deadlines, no navigation voice telling you to turn left in 300 yards. Just the simple joy of moving through the world with no particular destination. We've forgotten that a little. Modern driving is all efficiency now. Fastest route, least traffic, minimal time wasted. But somewhere along the way, we traded away the small pleasure of wandering, the feeling of taking the long road simply because it felt nicer under the tyres, the quiet moment when it's just you, the engine, and a bit of open sky. Classic cars remind you of that. They don't rush, they don't multitask, they're happiest when you're not trying to get anywhere quickly. In a strange way, they teach you to enjoy being unproductive, to savour the bends, the sounds, even the imperfections. And maybe that's why they still pull us in. Not because they're fast or convenient, but because they invite us back into a way of driving that feels almost forgotten, a way of being really slower, more attentive, a little more human. Every now and then it's worth taking a drive with no purpose, except the drive itself, no plan, no hurry, just the road unfolding at its own gentle pace. The lost art of driving for pleasure isn't lost at all. It's just waiting for us to remember.